How's it going, everyone? This is Earl Baylon, the voice of Jonah in the Tomb Raider reboot series, and you're listening to the Survivor Reborn podcast.
This is now season 2. I am your host, Laurie, and I am joined by fellow admin, AJ.
Hello.
Today is a very special podcast as we are joined by the very epic Earl Baylon. Say hello, Earl.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? How y'all doing?
Glad to have you here. If you don't know, and I would hope that you do, Earl is the voice for Jonah in the reboot series. So he's nice enough to come and join us for this podcast to just answer a few questions that we've been dying to ask him, as well as some questions that we asked you guys to put forward as well. So good luck, Earl.
Oh, great. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. It feels like truly an honor because you're just one of my favorite characters anyway from the series. Yeah, so it's really good to have you on. Stop it. Keep going though.
Stop it. Keep going.
Yeah. So I wanted to just get started because there might not be a lot of people out there that are familiar with other work that you've done. So if you could just tell us a bit more about yourself and other projects that you worked on besides Tomb Raider.
Well, I've been acting for quite a while now. I'm an actor improviser based in Los Angeles, California, and even before I started working on Tomb Raider, which is crazy to think about, that was 2011. I worked on like another video game called Dungeon Fighter Online. I've done commercials, 1 or 2 TV appearances. So I've done a little bit of everything. I associate produced a feature film, which is currently in post-production called Lumpia with a Vengeance.
Oh, wow.
I'm the artistic director of an improv troupe called Room to Improv. We have a show every first Friday of the month. Mm-hmm. And so I've kind of done a whole bunch of different things over my career, which is, it's been 11 years now. So a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. So was voice acting something you've always wanted to do, or is it just something you've taken on as you've gone along?
Well, I've always wanted to, perform. I've always been a performer, and I've always been a gamer as well. And I think I remember when voices started becoming a thing for games. That was something I always kind of wanted to explore, and I never really knew how to do it. I can remember I had an online profile for like a play I was in back in the day, and it said my profile at the time, and I totally forgot I had written this, was what is your dream job? And it was I wanted to be a voice actor in video games. This is right after I played, I think, Final Fantasy X. So,
okay.
I was like, that was one of the actually that was the first time. Well, I can't remember if 9 had recorded voices, but
no, 10 was the first one.
10 was the first one, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was like, super excited to see that was a possibility.
Oh, that's excellent.
Also, I will say major props for giving that little shout out to Final Fantasy X, best one.
Yeah. Literally, it kind of changed things for me because I was like, you can record voices now, and that's acting. Like I want to do that.
It really did. I remember people were very skeptical because they had to match the lip flaps and everything, so some of the emotion came off wrong. But it was such a stepping stone, at least for Final Fantasy going forward.
Absolutely.
I mean, it has come so far in like the space of 10 years, really, if you think about it. So I watch a lot of Troy Replay. I don't know if you've seen that one with Troy Baker and Nolan North, and they talk about like the history. Yeah, it's excellent. It's really worth watching. But they talk about like the history of like voice acting and now like mocap and stuff like that. So it's really interesting when you listen to them talk about it as well. And obviously, like they've been in the game for quite a while as well, so they've seen it adapt and move along. So it's really interesting, actually.
I gotta check that out.
Definitely. So the next question I've got here is, are there any projects that you're currently working on that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, we did mention earlier that I'm working on a podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts of a podcast, Pan Geekery. That's kind of my big thing right now. It's relatively new. I've been doing it for about 4 months. Pen Geekery is it's a live weekly video podcast. So there are 4 hosts. I'm one of them. The others are Jennifer and Zhang, Caitlin Fay, Walter Talons. We have a producer, Rodney Cahuto, and we live stream every Tuesday, 8 p.m. On twitch.tv/pangeekery. We cover everything geek that we can think of, but from our very specific perspective. Us all being children of immigrants and Asian American second generation people that work in the industry, in the entertainment industry. So we're coming from that perspective. And after we do the live stream every Tuesday, it goes up as a podcast on all the podcast services, and there's a video podcast on YouTube. So that's kind of the big thing I'm working on right now. I also mentioned Lumpia with a Vengeance, which is a feature film. It's an action comedy. I'm associate producing, but I'm also in it as an actor, and that's still in post-production, so lots of stuff left to do there. VFX shots, all that stuff has to be done.
I was going to say, I'm a big fan of Pangeekery as well. So for those of you that are listening, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely make sure that you do, because it's fantastic. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I've been watching that weekly on Twitch as well.
It's really good fun.
Speaking of which, we could skip question number 4 because we already got into Pangeekery.
I was going to say, because we've already...
Right.
I was like, okay, we can move on from that one.
Earl just launched into this dive.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so next question. As a gamer yourself, what are some of your favourite series outside of the Tomb Raider franchise, and what are some of the classic series you would like to see brought back?
Ooh, I mentioned Final Fantasy X. That's definitely one of my favorites. Fantasy series, the Final Fantasy series in general. So I do.
I was going to say, you excited for the reboot of 7?
Oh gosh, yeah. I've been excited for 3 years now. Right? when we got that first glimpse way back, I can't even remember what year that was, but
15, I think.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, were you one of the ones screaming at E3 when the trailer came out?
Yeah, that was probably me at my desk. Oh my gosh, that Final Fantasy VII. It's not only like how good the game was, really. It was that time in history, really, because FMVs were a thing for the first time. All that stuff, the music. So I mean, it was a convergence of many things in history. But Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, I like a lot. I like 6, which was 3 here in the States.
6 is phenomenal.
Yeah, 6 is great. That the opera scene.
Yes.
God. I still play World of Warcraft. Zelda and KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. If we're talking about like series we would like to bring back, I would like to see some more KOTOR, because I feel like that series was ended prematurely.
There's so many games though that you could say that too, isn't there?
Well, there's one I know that Earl likes.
Down the line.
Lunar.
Oh yes, yeah, yes. Oh my gosh, I haven't played. I need to do a replay of that game in particular, but gosh, yeah, that would be great. And
I remember,
they haven't released one. Yeah,
I remember I was showing the team a couple years ago when I found the cover you did for Lunar.
Oh, right. That's right, yeah.
Best part is at the where you put the "at it desperately."
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I first before I played the game, actually, I discovered that song because there was a Flash animation with a cat. And it was singing, the song, the boat, Luna's boat song. And it was because of that animation that I found the game and played it.
Okay, so we'll get right into the Tomb Raider part now.
Yeah.
We're going back to 2011.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I know.
Take yourself back, Earl. Take yourself back to 2011.
8 years ago. It's crazy. Whenever I think of it, I'm like, I've been doing this for 8 years.
It's insane because obviously for us, it's since 2013, obviously, when the game came up. But for you, obviously, it's a few years longer than that. So obviously, it's gonna help. And obviously, being so personally involved with the game, it's gonna hold more of a sort of place in your heart, so to speak, isn't it, as well? So.
Yeah, it definitely has, carved out a space in my heart.
Right. So the first question we've got here. So I think we've got a little bit about the casting process, but before we go into that, we wanted to ask you what your familiarity was with the actual Tomb Raider series before you actually took your audition, and had you played the games before you auditioned?
I played the first one way back in the day, in the dorms, when I was in college. Like I had a friend who had downloaded it. I don't even know if he did it illegally. He was just playing Tomb Raider, and I was watching him, and we were playing because I remember very specifically because he had one of the first like joy pads that you can connect to your computer, and then I was like, oh man, that's cool that you can play it on a console. I don't know, it was a big thing for us, and so I played it way back then. I didn't play it the entire way through, but my familiarity with the series is kind of, I know the classic ones, 1, 2, and 3. I never got to play any of the Underworld or Anniversary or any of those.
That's fine. You can skip those. We'll let
you. Yeah. I've like, if I had to play one of that stretch, which should I pick?
From that stretch, I would say probably Underworld. It's the most classic inspired one.
Yeah,
Legends pretty much more of, they were trying to bring the series back, so it was very casualized. I guess you could say.
It wasn't. Was it you that said it earlier, AJ? It was more of an arcade game.
Yeah, they tried to put like quick time events and like riding her motorcycle and
I don't think they really knew who the character of Lara was. I think at that point they'd taken this character on and they didn't really know who she was. So. And
then Anniversary, you could pretty much skip that. You pretty much got to play the real one anyway. So.
Yeah.
Right.
You might as well just play the original rather than Anniversary. So.
Good to know.
Okay,
but so Underworld could be quite buggy. That's the only problem.
Yes, if you're gonna play that, I would recommend the PC version.
Right. It's my only. Well, actually, I have PS4, but
yeah, Sony boy.
Right. I'm still mainly a PC guy, so.
Cool.
Okay, so the second question is, what was the casting process like going into the Tomb Raider reboot, and did you audition for any other roles other than Jonah?
So the casting process was pretty interesting. I remember getting. I got the email from my agent, and it didn't say what kind of project it was. It might have said it was like gosh, actually I don't think it said what kind of project it was, but it said that it was motion capture and had a description of the character, but I had no idea what it was going in. So I get to the audition, I work on the sides. The sides are like a script that you audition with, that is specifically meant for the auditions. So it was interesting because the sides, which are usually part of the shooting script, were something that had nothing to do with Tomb Raider. Actually, there were two characters speaking. They weren't Jonah and Lara. They were I can't even remember the names. But I went in and I asked the person on the other side of the audition table, who happened to be Toby Gard.
Oh,
and yeah. I asked him, I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, it's a video game. I was like, is it like a big video game? And he was like, it's a pretty big video game. Can't say what it is. So I had no idea what it was until I got called back. So I did my callback, and I got an NDA from my agent that had, the letterhead Crystal Dynamics, a Square Enix company, on it. And I was like, what is this? He's like, that dude wasn't kidding. This is pretty big. So I was all of a sudden I wanted it. Because as an actor, you go and you audition and you tell yourself that you don't want this. You don't need this. You're just going in there and you're doing your best. But all of a sudden, as you get higher in the audition process, further in the audition process, you start to want it. And this is when I really wanted it, because, I've been a gamer in my entire life, and it was super exciting to me.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. So after you actually got the role of Jonah, what was your overall opinion of his actual character and the role he served within the first game?
I was super excited to play Jonah because he very much he's actually pretty similar to me in real life. So he's kind of that dude. He's chill, but he'll say things that are very poignant, and sometimes things that you need to hear at that particular moment. And that's just kind of me. I sit and I listen, and I'll give my input if it's needed. Otherwise, I'll be relatively silent. I'll just sit here and chill. And he's always about supporting his friends, and that was the kind of thing I latched on when I was trying to build him in my head. It was that he is fiercely loyal and fiercely protective of his friends. So yeah, I like the dude a lot.
Yeah, I think that's actually why
I was going to say, I think he's the most likable character outside of obviously Lara, I think, for a lot of the fans, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's why so many people gravitated towards him. Because we didn't really get that in Tomb Raider before. Like, we had, Amanda, who was on the original Crystal Trilogy, but she was more so the big baddie. We never had somebody who was actually helping Laura, not on her same level, but just, like, emotionally helping her.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. That's cool. That's cool to hear that, it is a little... something new, like a little spark of originality in the series.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, so number 4, was there any traits you would have liked to add to his personality, or did you just like everything that was written about him?
I don't know if there was anything I would want to add. There may be things I would like him to do, like if he had. And I know this would kind of push into like Lara's sphere, is that if he had like if he was like a little more kick-ass, then I think that would be cool. But I think in general he's a pacifist, so he doesn't, he would do that right off the bat. But I want to know that if he needed to, could he wreck some people?
I think he could.
Oh, I think he
could.
I
think looking at him, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mess with that guy.
I don't know how many times I was like, come on, Jonah, just hit Whitman just one time. Come on.
No. Oh gosh, yeah, Whitman. I have such good memories of that game shooting 2013, because there were so many of us on set at one time. Like everybody was there. And it was just fun, like hanging out in between scenes and stuff.
So it's been stated numerous times online that the first game originally ended with Sam dying.
Right.
But this had to be reshot. Could you tell us anything about the original ending?
The original ending, as far as I know, it's exactly what you heard. So Sam ends up being dead, and it's weird because I didn't know while I was playing through, doing my playthrough of 2013, that Sam would survive. Because I remember, shooting it, and I remember shooting the scene very specifically. It's the end where Lara has just defeated Himiko and Father Matthias, right? She shoots him off the cliff, and Jonah and Reyes are chilling in that barge waiting for Lara. So Lara comes down, Jonah sees her, and the lines are like, oh no. And Lara is carrying Sam's body. That's when we realize that she's dead. And because I go over, and then I grab Sam from her and lay her on the barge, and so I didn't know that happened. I mean, I didn't know that they had changed that until I reached the end of my playthrough, and I was like, what?
That's actually where I came up with the question from, by the way. I watched you play your original first playthrough on Twitch.
Oh, really?
Yep.
No way.
But yeah, I
What's going
thought,
on?
like, with Sam dying, I thought that would have made more of an impact on Laura as a character in general. So
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, weren't
yeah.
we? Where I think Rihanna Pratchett actually came out and said about the fact that originally, yeah, it was Sam that was meant to die, but
Right.
it was like the focus group that played it said it was too depressing, so they had to keep her alive.
I mean, that's what I don't get though, because when you play the game, the entire message behind the game is
it's
learning
about sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
yeah, like where Roth says to her, like in life you have to make sacrifices. So Sam would have been the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right.
And to us it makes sense. But yeah, that's why I don't trust focus groups when it comes to games.
It's always weird because, like, who's in the focus groups, right? Are they gamers or general, like,
exactly, yeah,
general audience?
Okay, so the first game in the series had many side characters, each with their own persona, but the main one that stood out for fans was Jonah. What do you think it was about his personality that made him stand out from the rest of the Endurance crew?
I really think that it was just the fact that he was one that was always on Lara's side, like from the very beginning. He was one that believed her, that there was something funny going on with the island, and he supported her through that, and was kind of like the person that was also kind of just anchoring everybody in the Endurance, like trying to keep the peace and making sure that everybody was focusing on moving forward. So I just think those two things kind of stuck out to people. At least that's what I would like to believe.
Well, like we said earlier, I do think Jonah is probably the most popular side character from the original game.
Yeah,
so
I would say
I think people were happy to see him being brought back for Rise and Shadow.
I would say he was the most well-written one.
Yeah.
The most fleshed out.
Cool. He did have, I did get, a relatively detailed kind of backstory for him. I think it might have changed at some point, but yeah, I got like some substance to sink my teeth into, which is was helpful.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of changes, though, when you were brought in, Earl, they were originally working on a more horror-inspired Tomb Raider reboot game.
Right, I remember seeing the last days of Tomb Raider.
The final. I think it was the final hours. Was it, Lori?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, when you were brought in, were they still doing that, or did they already switch to what you were working on?
I never saw a script for that, so I don't know. I don't know how far in the process that was like abandoned. So yeah, we were working, like, the script that I got on that day that we shot is pretty much the game.
Okay. You were brought in way later then.
Right. Yeah. I was pretty late. I was brought in pretty late.
But yeah, for you guys that don't know that are listening, they were originally going to make the Tomb Raider reboot a more horror-inspired, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus meets Resident Evil.
Right.
It was going to be called Tomb Raider Ascension. If you guys want to check that out, you can just type in Tomb Raider Ascension on YouTube. There's tons of videos. People rip them from the program, but they're there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
The funny thing is, like, the working title, at least the title on the script, was still Tomb Raider Ascension.
Oh, nice.
If I remember correctly. So I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah, they probably kept that as a working title.
They probably just kept that till the last minute, maybe.
Right.
To be fair, I wish
that would have been interesting, though.
Yeah. But then they wouldn't have been able to go with Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Right.
Would they?
Ascension of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah. She just keeps going up.
I know. Kind of cool. I mean, I super dug Shadows of the Colossus.
Yes.
Epic game. So, talking of Rise of the Tomb Raider, by the time it was announced, Jonah had gone from being on the sidelines to right next to Lara on the battlefield. After the reboot was released, were you shocked to see so many fans gravitating more towards Jonah versus the other surviving crew members?
Yeah, it was definitely I don't know if I would say shocked, but I would say I was pleasantly surprised, just because there were a few people left alive at the end of 2013, and I just considered myself super lucky to be playing the one that they decided to move forward with. I don't know, what the decision was there, but yeah, I was just super happy to be playing. To be working on another project. It was just fun. It was fun getting the call.
Yeah.
Well, I think I could speak for the team when I say that was one of the decisions that we were happy with. Like outside of like many decisions they made for Rise that I won't go into.
Oh right.
We won't go into that.
Right.
Let's skip over that.
But we were incredibly happy to see that you got front and center finally.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I love it. I had no idea what was going to happen, and then I remember I was driving to E3 the year that they were announcing Rise, and I was watching the live stream on my phone. This is so bad. I shouldn't be watching the live streams while I'm driving, but I was watching the live stream while I had it on my phone as I was driving to the convention center, and they played that first trailer with the Jonah and Lara, scaling the mountain in the beginning, and I was like, oh my god, I had no idea it was going to be like, I was going to be in the trailer. That's so awesome. I was losing my mind. So it was a pleasant surprise to see Jonah kind of thrust a little more into the forefront.
Okay, so how did you feel about Rise overall compared to the first game, and what were some of your favorite moments, and were you happy with how Jonah evolved?
I really enjoyed Rise. Well, not just playing it, but like also working on it, just because Jonah gets a little more meat. We kind of see a little more of his emotional side in like one or two scenes. In that scene where he walks into Lara studying at the mansion at Croft Manor, and that was a fun scene to do, and that was probably my favorite moment, working on that right there. But I also particularly enjoyed the scene with Constantine, working with that where Jonah gets stabbed. That was kind of a fun scene.
Yeah, that was a standout scene too, because I was like, this is the part where the fans riot.
Yeah. No, don't kill off the best character.
No. Yeah, I remember thinking about it, like when we were shooting that. I'm like, oh man, people are gonna be like, I don't know if people are gonna be like, turn on Jonah, because they're just like, man, just shoot the guy. Why aren't you shooting him, man? I don't know. I guess that's just not in his character, but he lets himself get hoodwinked.
Okay, so for the end of that, like, are you happy with how he evolved with the course of Rise?
I think so. I think that I think it was a logical, progression in his character. I do like that. He followed her into into the dangerous unknown, and it makes sense to me in my head, like because he had lost so many people on Yamatai, that he was gonna pull all stops, and try to make sure that he didn't lose anyone else. So
okay. All right, so before we go into Shadow, I was saying to my friend before, Shark, we were talking about like how when they team up, right, Laura will go ahead and she'll do like all the hard work, and then when there's a cutscene that kicks in, you have 5 minutes later, like Jenna just appears out of nowhere, like, oh hi. So we're always talking about how he's like a ninja.
Right. He climbs over things, and
like for a specific scene.
Why did you do all that climbing? I just found a shortcut around the corner.
I would say a specific scene would be like the Eagle trial in Shadow.
Right. The rotating column. Yeah,
yep.
That was a cool puzzle.
Like we crashed through it, and then like 5 seconds later, oh hi.
Hey, what's up? Jonah knows things. Maybe we'll find out later on that he's been like some kind of like spirit this entire time, just like a shapeshifter.
I freaking knew it. I knew it.
I know.
So he's like Maui in disguise or something.
I know, right? I just watched Moana, so like.
Oh, I love Moana.
Yeah, I just watched it for the first time like a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe that's where I got that from. I was thinking druids from World of Warcraft in my head. Like they just turn into birds and then fly off. But like Maui also makes sense. So.
All right. So
yeah. Anyway, moving on.
We are now moving into Shadow of the Tomb Raider, aka the team's favorite.
So I have to say, this is like my favorite scene in Shadow. So can you tell us a little bit about how you managed to channel so much anger for the scene where Jonah laid into Lara after she causes a tsunami?
Thank you, by the way.
So this has writers. This has become a pretty staple scene, and a lot of fans pretty much sided with Jonah instead of Lara. And a member of our team from Survivor Reborn, Chris, even did a mashup of the scene with the motion capture footage.
Right, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah,
pretty awesome. It was an interesting process, just because this, I think, if I remember correctly, we shot this scene on our very first day of filming for Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it was the first day, and it might have been maybe the second or third scene of the day. I remember we were talking we're going over the script and stuff, and Daryl Purdy, who directed us in the scenes, he gave us a choice. He was like, do you want to do this scene first, or do you want to do the tsunami scene first? And Camilla was like, I feel like we're going to have more energy, right now. So we should probably do the tsunami scene first. And I agreed with her because, I knew it was going to be, taxing emotionally. So we did it several times, and we had gotten, somewhat there. We had a good take, basically, and they were going to use that. And Daryl, at the very last second before we kind of do a safety take, he comes up to me. He kind of just whispers in my ear, and he was just like, just hurt her, man. Just go for it. And I was like, okay, all right. And, this is going to be the last scene. I mean, the last take. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to dig deep. I'm going to pull things up from my history, and I'm going to let loose. And yeah, that's what came out. It was just a mixture of like a bunch of emotions I was feeling at the time. I was thinking about relationships, past relationships, and just that kind of feeling. And yeah, that's what came out. I was also feeding off Camilla as well, because that's like essential in this scene. If you don't have the energy from your like acting partner to match yours, then it's gonna feel weird. And but she, Camilla's great, so she brought it, and I just had to match her, basically. And
I will say, the entire time when he was laying into her, like, it's not about you, Laura. I was waiting for Reyes to come with a microphone. Like, you tell him!
Like in a helicopter with the megaphone.
Yeah!
Like,
you tell her!
Right! And it flies away. It totally feels like something Reyes would have said, like, in the first one.
It does. I feel like she would have been very proud of that.
Right.
Yeah. You just know at that moment she's like, "Oh, I feel the winds are changing."
Oh my god.
Okay, so Jonah evolved so much over the course of the 3 games, from side character to Laura's moral compass and best friend. If you had to choose one game out of the reboot series, what would be your favorite based on Jonah's evolution?
Yeah, honestly, it's got to be Rise. I mean, not Rise. Sorry, it's got to be Shadow. Just because we do get like a lot of stuff in Shadow with regards to the relationship and between Lara and Jonah, and it's not just we get stuff that doesn't just have to do with tomb raiding. It's the stuff that they would talk about outside of it. And that's, I don't know, that's just super satisfying to me. Even the very like quiet moments, like when we're doing a walk and talk, like at the end when Etsley asks about Abby, that stuff, and some of that stuff was improvised. So
okay, so Shadow of the Tomb Raider brought a much more human side to the reboot saga. There was one scene that Laura and Jonah were bonding over the campfire, talking about Jonah's brother and Laura's parents.
right.
This scene stood out to me most because it felt so real, touching on the emotions of loss, and I felt like that was like the theme they were going for with Shadow. They were trying to make it seem so real.
Right.
Can you tell us anything about how you managed to channel so much emotion for that scene?
Gosh, that was one of my favorite scenes too.
Same.
I was really looking forward to see how that would translate in the game, and it was besides the tsunami scene, this was one of the first ones that I actually got to see in a finished state before the game came out, and I was just blown away because like the I think we did a good job, but also the animation and stuff they're just on point. But I guess channeling the emotions here, it was just channeling, like just latching on to my own experience with loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, not too long before I worked on Shadow of the Tomb Raider. When did I start working on this? 2018. My mother passed away in 2016, and so I was using that as kind of fuel. I kept that in my mind as I was going through the scene, and yeah, it was just it was a very real world circumstance, and I was just channeling that for my work, which is, I mean, what acting is in general,
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Well, I will say, I think you absolutely nailed it, you and Camila, for this scene. Tomb Raider, they tried bringing emotion to the series many times, but usually it falls flat because of so many writers.
Quite forced.
Yep.
Right.
But this was the first time in since playing the original in '96 that I actually got so caught up in the moment. Like, just as you said before, like the animations, like seeing the facial animations and like the eyes and just how much emotion was coming out in their faces.
Right.
I don't know, it just hit something. Like, even like Uncharted
right
does this kind of thing, but this, to me, this scene in general was just like, holy crap.
It's one of those scenes that you really do remember. It really sticks out. I
love this scene. And I have to also give credit to writing, because the lines, they made it easy, because it felt very real. So like shout outs to Jill Murray, and also I mean, directing is a huge thing as well. So I mean, they just, a lot of the times, especially for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, they just let us play in space. They gave us freedom for this game to play with moments and play with dialogue. So I think it really reflected in the final product.
I do. I think Shadow, like, that made the entire reboot saga worth it. Just how human they felt in this game.
I'm glad. That makes me glad to hear. It makes me
2 thumbs up.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so we got some fan questions from Jar Cup. So Lori, if you want to take those 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So the first question we've got here is, since Jonah looks different with each game, which is your favorite design?
I'm a little torn because oh my god, this is hilarious. So I like Jonah's costume in original in 2013, because it's something that I would wear. That's like my uniform, my like almost daily uniform. I wear like like a tank top, and because I'm in California. It's always kind of warm, so like a tank top or like a sleeveless cutoff or whatever, and shorts. it's literally what I'm wearing right now. So I like that a lot. I mean, I like 2013 a lot, but I do have to say, yeah, I just like the shadow look. I love the shadow look because of the layers of his clothing, the vest and stuff, and the hair. Dude, the hair. I used to have that hair, and and I miss it because I have far less hair now. But just because my hair is much shorter than it used to be.
I was gonna say you could grow it back.
Yeah, I could grow it back. It will just take another couple years. But yeah, I would say the shadow design is my favorite.
Shadow for the win.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Pro Shadow. Next question. Besides Jonah, are there any supporting characters in Tomb Raider that stand out to you?
I always I feel like I always bring up Grimm. Because man, I love the accent. It's so the actor James Walsh, who plays Grimm, whenever we were on set on 2013, I would get lost like in listening to his accent, and I because it was like, man, that's for reals. That's the first time I've like ever heard a Scottish accent, like a native Scottish accent from because he's, I think if I remember correctly, he's half Scottish, half Irish, but
Okay.
he the accent is his. So yeah, I was just like mesmerized by it, and I would have to constantly fight trying to mimic it while we're in scenes, because it's I have a tendency to do that, just to start mimicking like an accent I hear, but yeah, I had to stop myself from doing that. But I just love his little quips too. The it's a ship, Dr. Whitman. A ship,
I love that he's on the ladder and he's like, "It's a trap, Rora, kill them all."
Yeah, it's a trap. I love it.
So yeah, it's funny because I actually thought that was a put on accent. I didn't actually realize that was his actual accent.
Actually, I have I might be wrong. I don't know. It's been 8 years, so I might be, I'm sure he might have pulled it back a little.
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah.
Because I always think about like Scottish actors, like David Tennant is Scottish, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I wonder how much he pulls back his natural accent, because.
Well, I think when you act, I think it's you learn to enunciate anyway, didn't you? So if you have a really strong accent,
Right.
you tend to lose that a lot, don't you? Anyway, and when you've got a job where you have to use your voice to communicate with people,
Definitely.
That's what I found anyway.
I absolutely agree. It even that happens even much more so when people are singing. Like the accent gets standardized because there's a particular way you sound all your vocals when you're singing. So
how you enunciate.
You'll hear a lot of British artists will sound American when they sing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It's just,
right. Yeah.
It just seems to be like you said, the standardized sort of accent with it.
Right.
Okay, so if fans would like to reach out or stay up to date with what you're working on, where is the best place for them to follow you?
I would say head to my website, earlbaylon.com. Like, all my socials are there. My socials are kind of like all over the place in terms of like the handles. But they're all there. My Twitter handle is Earl_Baylon, and my Insta is Early Be Good, which is EARLYBGOODE. It's a Chuck Berry reference. So
okay, and what we'll do is when we finish this up, we will have like all the websites that Earl are listing in the video description. So if you guys do want to check them out, be sure to do that. Now that the reboot saga is finished, do you have anything you would like to say to the fans who have come on the journey? Like, you've been to like Crystal Dynamics when we did Extra Life. You've seen that the fans do the charity work and all that. So is there anything you would like to say to the fans as a whole?
I just want to express like the utmost gratitude to the fans, the TR community in general. This has been one of literally the best fandom I've had a chance to experience, because I mean, you know, I'm a fan of several things, and there's a certain amount of toxicity that happens, and I don't know, that's got to exist somewhere, you know, at least in some capacity in every fandom. I don't experience it as much in Tomb Raider fandom, and I receive so much love and so much support from the community that I'm eternally grateful. So I just want to say thank you, for the support, for following us along on this journey, and I hope, you know, I hope we gave you a good story, you know, or we give you something to care about.
You did. It went out with a bang.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. I think Shadow was the best way it could have ended, really.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, so guys, that is our interview with Earl Baylon. Thank you again for doing this with us.
Yeah, no problem. It was fun, man. Thank you very much for having me.